you, Zoom, for keeping me on my toes. Thank you all so much for being here. I just absolutely love and appreciate that I've been doing this for many, many years, and there's even a few who've been doing it who come from time to time on a regular basis. And those of you who have joined in the last year, the last 2 years, the last 3 years. I so appreciate always knowing that these transmissions, these messages, and I call them transmissions because they're transmitted through me. I don't sit and think, well, okay, what am I going to talk about? I simply allow myself to be a vessel to transmit whatever message is appropriate. And I'll tell you, I was chuckling this morning because yesterday was St. Patrick's Day. I don't really celebrate hardly any holidays anymore, simply because as I've learned through my journey that all of these holidays are made up. They have a specific reason that they come together. Some, yes, they're to celebrate specific groups, specific people, specific things. But Course in Miracles calls that special. And because I am moving away from specialness, I don't like to just focus on specific special groups. And by the way, I didn't even say for those who are new, who may be watching this later, I am Laina Orlando. And today is episode 235 of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And today is March the 18th, 2026. So yesterday was St. Patrick's Day. So anyways, as I continue to move on my journey and continue to detach myself from the worldly things that we're supposed to do, like certain holidays. And on St. Patrick's Day, you're supposed to wear green. And I remember when I was little and I would go to school and I didn't have green on, somebody could pinch you because you weren't wearing green. And one of my favorite things when I would forget to wear green is I would say, my underwear are green, because I was hoping that they weren't going to ask me, well, show me. Oh, but anyhow, so it's still fun thinking about those things. But I'll tell you, this morning I had this surge of energy, and I've had a beautiful relationship with my guides, specifically Jesus. That's primarily who has been guiding me, and I'm getting all emotional because when I feel that energy, it is so sublime that it makes me teary, it makes me weepy because it's so beautiful. And I still have that feeling of, oh my gosh, I feel so blessed that I get to feel this. Um, but here's the thing, as I'm feeling into this alignment with Jesus, to be given what it is that we're going to be talking about today. Normally, I don't get that notification too far in advance. It's usually like right beforehand. Okay, open the course at this lesson, this place in the text, and this is it. But today I got like 10 minutes ahead of time, way before I was coming on. So 10, 15 minutes, that's a lot of advance notice. And I felt the activation in me of a sensation that I have felt many times in my life, which is a feistiness. And I've been known for being feisty. As a matter of fact, and I grew up in the Dominican Republic. I'm part Latin. And on my mother's side, I am Latin and French. On my father's side, I am Irish and Italian. I am feisty. I come by it very honestly. And boy, I spent a lot of my life very feisty, but it was the ego who was running the feistiness. It was I have to be right. I've got to put people down. I've got to be superior. I've got to be the one who knows everything. I've got to be the special one. Everybody look at me. Everybody has to like me. People pleaser so that they would like me. And then so righteous that people didn't like to be around me because I knew everything. I was always right. So it's a conundrum when you listen to the ego because you're always going to be in a state of confusion. But as I have been moving through my spiritual journey, what is so incredible is for a long time, I was so mellow, you wouldn't even know there was an ounce of feistiness in me ever before that. But I was mellow because I was quieting down. I was coming down off of that egoic um, control that ran my life and moving down into the places where I was allowing myself to be shown where I needed to untether from those low frequencies of anger and resentments and fear and judgments and shame and guilt. When you begin to go down and you begin to explore and you comb the depths of your own unconsciousness, you don't have a whole lot of energy for a lot else. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who go into a deep dive into their spiritual journey in some ways become apathetic because you're unplugging from the matrix, but you don't know yet your place in society. You're not quite sure, how to show up. You become more quiet, you become more introspective. Let me get a quick drink of water. I was eating some breakfast and had some granola, so that's what I'm feeling is a little piece of granola um, stuck in there. So anyhow, so it is very common. And I'm speaking because I've been a teacher of spiritual principles for 20 years. Hard to believe. 20 years. Next year marks 20 years in April when I first started teaching the power of awareness. Cannot believe it. But here we are. So 20 years ago, I knew that I was going to start sharing what I was learning. So I have 20 years of experience teaching many, many people. Today, I would probably say at least 1,000 plus students and people that I've coached over the years. When I was in Atlanta, I had bigger groups, bigger classes, just the nature of the fact that I had lived there for a very long time. I had places that I could go teach and have 20, 30, 40, 50 students at a time. Hmm. Wipe that. Anyhow, as we move on this path, we will go into deeper places within to unplug. And for a while, we kind of feel like, okay, I don't know who I am. We're undoing identities and we don't have a new one yet because we don't fully understand at the beginning of the journey that when you're unplugging from old behaviors, old identities, old belief patterns, what you're doing is you're removing what you're not. You're removing what is a mask, what you've made up. And we've made it up because it's what society has said is what we're supposed to be. And we think that we are taking that off because we're going to learn who we are. But it's actually not quite that way. You're removing what you're not so that what you are can be revealed. But because we haven't been in touch with our authentic self that hasn't been co-opted by the ego, we're not really familiar with our authenticity. So we think we have to become something. For me, and I've noticed this for quite a few people, we think we have to become kind of like a monk like for so I went through a period of time when I wasn't sure, am I supposed to be more monk like? Should I wear saffron color clothes? Should I wear purple stuff? Should I wear, should I put a turban on? I wasn't sure, what was I going to become, a monk, a saint, a what? And you're kind of in a limbo, not knowing who you really are supposed to become. But the journey is about revealing what you already are, which is why we are told in so many different traditions you have to become like a little child. And as you become like a little child, you're allowing your joyful self to get reactivated, your creative self, your curious self, that which is like a little kid, which is one of the reasons when my daughter asked me to move to Colorado 3 years ago to be here to help her with her children. I knew I had to take this assignment, and I call it, I don't know why the word assignment came out, but anyhow, that I had to make that move. I had to leave Atlanta, leave my world that I knew behind, and I had to come here to a place that would never have been a place I would have ever picked to move to, because I knew I was going to be sitting at the feet of the most advanced gurus I have ever studied under. And the reason I call these little children gurus is because they are not here to impress anybody. They are here to be themselves. And that's exactly what my journey was calling me to at that time, which was radical honesty, radical authenticity. And you cannot be authentic if you're not being honest, because you have to be honest to recognize where you're still pretending, where you're still impressing, where you're still trying to become, spiritual this way or that way, where you're still trying to find your tribe and fit in and let another group define you. I moved out of my Catholic group and I stopped being Catholic. I stopped saying Catholic things. Then I became Christian and then I stopped doing Christian things. And then I became atheist and I was, totally atheist and get me in a social setting and I would tell you what atheists knew. But remember, I had to be right and I was feisty and I was going to let people know what I thought. And then I went through my spiritual phase and I went to unity and I started doing certain things and wearing certain things and speaking certain ways and saying, what was appropriate in that context until I began to realize that even that needed to be shed. I'm not spiritual. I am pure spirit. I don't need to become spiritual. I am spirit. The whole purpose is to remove everything, every obstacle to the truth of who I am. And a little child shows you more clearly who you are. And God has thought each and every one of us in a very specific, unique way. We look the way we look, we act the way we act, we have the personalities, the gifts, the talents that we have, all of them unique specifically because each and every one of us is a very precise piece of a very large puzzle. And sometimes we need somebody feisty. Sometimes we need somebody mellow. Sometimes the perfect person to lead the charge is somebody who is completely zen and quiet and looks a certain way. Recently, we watched the march of the monks the peace march that they did through the United States. I don't think somebody else could have pulled it off. But those monks walking in their robes, saffron robes, marching, the way that they looked, the presence that they brought, everything about them was exactly what brought the kind of international attention to that event that was necessary. It would have been me and 20 of my friends. I don't think it would have brought that attention, even though we might have been walking for the exact same thing. So it is necessary that we make peace with exactly who we are so that we can be used and with our unique personalities to bring about the message that is necessary at that time. So before I got ready to talk to you guys, I was told that we need to amp up my feistiness. And I was like, after all those years of putting that down, what? And the message is because the reason the feistiness has to come back out is because I am moving to a different level in my journey. So I have to speak from where I am at. And everybody teaches only to where they're at. I can't take people beyond where I am. I can only bring people to where I'm at. And where I'm at right now is a place of radical honesty, radical integrity, absolute and complete commitment to doing things one way and one way only. That means in total alignment with God, zero exceptions. That is the only source of my guidance. And in the world that we are today, because there are so many distractions, and because there are so many already, lots of other teachers who are speaking to whatever place we're at on the journey where we need to go in and get quiet and be very, very still and very zen, but that's not where I'm at. Where I'm at is radical honesty, meaning I'm here to challenge people to really question, where are you on your journey? Are you being truthful with yourself, not with anybody else? Because today we have an incredible opportunity with so much chaos, but that chaos is also the source of so many double standards. And what we get comfortable with, um, if we don't look at the opposite side of it, if we don't look at the double standard side of it, we become uh, distracted by things that make us think that we're spiritual, but in actuality, it's the spiritualized ego and not your authentic self, the God within, the spirit that you are expressing itself. So, to give you some examples, when we look at the world today, let's say just politics, And we consider ourselves somebody who is walking down this path of aligning with God and recognizing. uh, And I follow the Course in Miracles, so I'm only going to speak to what I know to be true for me based on the Course in Miracles. So part of my feistiness is about becoming very clear about what it is that I teach. I am not here to appeal to everybody, obviously. I am here to appeal to people who are really committed to want to understand what the Course teaches because they want to experience that level of peace. Now, to have that level of peace, you cannot operate in double standards, meaning you cannot talk the talk, but not walk it. You have to be congruent. The talk and the walk have to be congruent. Double standards is when, for example, like politics, if you are a student of the course and you are going deep into the teachings, because it's layered, it's layers upon layers upon layers, because we're moving through layers of conditioning, the course meets us at every layer that we're at. So as we are unplugging those aspects of self that is time for us to let go of, the course meets us there, but it cannot take us any further than we are prepared to go. And when we begin to practice the characteristic of honesty, that to me is when you can begin to really see where you're hung up. And again, the feistiness is because I want to help those who are committed to being totally truthful and honest about where they're at on the journey, because they're committed to freedom no matter what. 100% freedom. But to get to 100% freedom from your egoic identity, you have to be courageous. You have to be willing to question everything. You have to be curious. You got to become like a little child and get really curious. If we are in, I'm right, we're not going to get there, because righteousness is used by the ego to facilitate the double standards. So back to the example of politics. So we say that we like this party or the other. It doesn't matter the party, because the example fits the same way. You can be on this side and say that you're spiritual, be conservative, or you can say that you are liberal and be conservative, or be spiritual, the same way. But here's where the honesty has to come in. If you are conservative, it's okay to have your conservative views. But can you really recognize two things? One, this is all made up. We're all making this up. None of this is solid. This is everything that is happening. Our desires for the conservative side are all by consensus. We have agreed to certain things, to certain ways of doing things, to certain morals and standards. And when you hold on to that and you then judge the others, then you are not really operating in integrity with the teachings of the Course. The same is as if you're liberal. If you're liberal and you hold to those moral standards and you hold to those ways of doing things and that perspective of the world, number one, it's all made up. You made it up. There was no Republican and Democrat when we all first, when this world was first brought into existence by our egoic desire to experience the third dimensional experience of separation. None of that was there. Go ask the dinosaurs. Were they Democrats or Republicans? They're not gonna tell you that they picked a side. So we've got to get really honest. We have made all that up for our enjoyment, for our experience. So number one, you got to admit that it's made up. Number two, are you judging those who don't see things the same way that you do? That's where the honesty really kicks in. One, are you taking it serious? Two, then are you using that to be righteous about your position in the group that you're with, and then judge everybody else? We are at a time when the spiritual movement is really has an opportunity to mature. And that is one of the things that I love about the Course in Miracles. It meets you wherever you're at, but if you are committed to go all the way, and when I say all the way, it's to see things the way Jesus sees things, because you're following his way, the way that he's teaching, since he is the author of the transmissions of the Course in Miracles through Helen Schuckman. There is only one way to be like Jesus, and that is to activate that Christ consciousness within yourself. The Christ that knows that this is all made up. The Christ that knows that you and God are one, and therefore all of our brothers and sisters are one with us. Therefore, you cannot go around judging. That is the characteristic of tolerance. Tolerance is very misunderstood because it's not the traditional tolerance that we are taught. Tolerance as in put up with anything that somebody does. That's not what the Course is teaching. The Course, when it teaches tolerance, it states that you have to be honest because you have to acknowledge that you cannot possibly see everything. You don't have the full, not only 50,000 view of what's happening, but you don't have the bazillion, million, trillion miles perspective to see everything in the whole of the universe. So that is a place where when we begin to get honest, that we need to humble ourselves. We need to bring ourselves down to the place that we have to admit we don't know it all. The ego doesn't like to admit that it doesn't know it all because the ego holds on to its limited knowledge through righteousness. Even when it doesn't know something, it's, oh, I'm right, I'm so stupid, I'm so dumb, I don't know anything. That's still an identity of righteousness. I'm so right that I'm wrong, which is one of the ways that the ego operates. But when you begin to question double standards, when you begin to be honest about why do you support this side and judge this side, or why do you support this side and judge that side? When we look at things like what's happening in the world, or even what has happened recently, in recent, I'm saying 5 years ago, when we had the pandemic and we had all of those things going on, there were two sides, absolutely two sides. Those who followed the rules and who were in fear and did what they were told to do, and those who did not. If you are operating in integrity with the teachings of the Course, it doesn't matter which side you followed. What matters is that you didn't judge the other side because you understood two things. One, it's all made up. This whole experience, the Course teaches us we're not bodies. So the entire experience of medical intervention or viruses or whatever, it's all made up. We are collectively agreeing to things that are happening because we're having experiences so that we can experience ourselves at different levels of consciousness. When we know that we're one with all that is, we're one with all that is. That's it. You're one with everything. But when you choose to experience separation from knowing everything, and think logically. If you don't want to be in a state of knowing everything, then that means you want to know less. So the process of incarnation is a process of limiting what I know so I can have an experience at that level of awareness, at that level of knowledge. Now, most of us don't think that way. I didn't come to that realization until much later in my journey, is that if you are in oneness with all that is, you already know everything. So then what would separation be but the knowing less, the limitation of what is all that is. So you know a little bit less. But then what the ego does is in righteousness, I'm defending what little I know and I'm making that be the truth, which allows the ego permission to then judge those who don't know what it knows, not understanding that they're unique pieces of the puzzle. And what they know is a part of it, even if it's different than what you know. So when we are operating from our authentic self, we are curious and we know that we're here. Everybody brings a bit of information. And when we put it together, then we come a little closer to knowing more. But when we're only agreeing to what I know and siding only with people who know the same thing, we're literally creating a barrier to everything else that is possible. In honesty, and again, maturity, because only one who has come to a certain level of maturity understands that it is way more honest to admit that you don't know it all. But here's the thing. When you go deeper on this journey and you cultivate a relationship with God, with the Holy Spirit, and you're listening to guidance, you don't need to know everything because you have access to the one that does. So when you humble yourself, and this was not easy for me to do, but when I began to humble myself and realize, you know what, I really do not know it all. Let me just be honest. I cannot possibly know it all, but I have access to the one who knows everything. So when I get off of my spiritualized ego pedestal and humble myself enough to say, God, what would you have me do? What is it that I need to know in this moment? What is it that is most appropriate here? Because I've cultivated the trust and the faithfulness, that I'm expecting an answer. And why? Because I'm entitled to it. That's what the course teaches us. Again, there are so many aspects to the course, so many different parts that we got to put them together. And when you begin to put it together, the picture gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's brighter and more, just more magnificent than you could possibly imagine. And you naturally become softer and gentler and more joyful because you're not listening to an egoic mind that needs to be right. You are allowing yourself to be happy, to be joyful, to be at peace. That is part of maturing, because when peace is important to you and freedom, you don't need to be right about anything. You don't need to defend your positions. As a matter of fact, one of the characteristics is defenselessness, because our safety is in being defenseless. I don't need to defend what I know is true within me. This is why as you move deeper into your journey, you don't need to side with groups. You don't need to be this or that. I participate in the political stuff in the US where I live. Why? Because number one, it's made up and it's fun. It's a fun game. I really like that game. It's a really exciting game for me, the way that I look at it, because it's very interesting to observe the consciousness of the people who are running for office or who are in office, and to observe where are they on their journey. To me, that's fascinating. It's really, really interesting to see, to hear what people say, to watch their actions, and to notice what's congruent and what's not, because it sharpens my skills. It sharpens my ability to know where am I, because I can't judge what they've done or haven't done, because either I've done it or I'm capable of doing that as well. So I like to look at where is their congruency, where is their honesty, and then I like to support that because it's fun, because I want to see where it's going. And when you become so detached from the insanity of the ego, you can observe it in a really powerful way. And part of this feistiness that I'm feeling is because we are being called to co-create a happy dream. Now, the course tells us I need do nothing, which is totally, completely true. I need do nothing to become what I am, nothing at all, because what I am is already there. Now, the other side to that is that I am doing something to become what I am, to accept what I am, which is the work of removing the obstacles, looking at what is not loving, what is not honest, what is not trusting. Let go of that. So in essence, you're doing something because you're consciously looking for those obstacles to the presence of the love that you are, and you're choosing to let that go. So it appears like there's a doing there. But the course is preparing those who are willing to move into a state of alignment with truth, and are aware that because this is all made up, you now want to make up a new game. You want to make up the game that is called, in A Course in Miracles, a happy dream. It's a world that will be experienced because we're going to make it up together. And it is made up by those who operate from the frequency of love. At the very least, the frequency of courage to become honest enough to admit, oh, okay, I wasn't happy in that moment. I was being judgmental. I needed to be right. And then you can self-correct. When you can self-correct and you shift from the low frequency of righteousness to the higher frequency of because you have to have courage to override your own righteousness, to say, wait a second, I'd rather be happy than right. And you humble yourself and you let people know, you know what, I don't need to be right. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to be curious. I want to be open, because you are my brother, you are my sister, and you hold a piece of the puzzle. I don't have that peace, so I cannot possibly know it all. I cannot possibly be right about everything because there is another piece that has a different perspective, that has a different um, understanding of things from the unique point of view with which you have been raised inside of this human experience. And part of what we are learning is that because we are one, we have to override the ego that maintains us in separation so that we can become willing to hear, to receive the gifts that others have to give us, to hear other opinions. This is why we have to drop our defenses. This is why these characteristics are specifically the way that they are. You have to drop your defenses. You have to become tolerant and not judge. You have to become open-minded and be willing to hear anything and everything. You don't have to agree with it, but you have to acknowledge that it is possible. Again, this is why maturity is so important. We have to recognize that we are capable of anything and everything because we come from the source of all that is. All that is means all of it. We have the ability to be able to do any of it. So when you get comfortable that maybe in this lifetime you're not out there murdering anybody, murdering is a possibility for every single one of us because in all that is an option. And now, God doesn't go around murdering, but God gave us free will to block life, to block what is truth. And then murder is part of that because it's an experience that we have when we take on physical bodies, we experience birth and death. And if we don't allow birth and death to happen on its own, and we decide to take somebody's life and we bring, the new term, we unalive them, then we're practicing murdering. But murdering is not just taking somebody's life. It is also the taking of an insect's life. It's the taking of a person's reputation if we murder their character. So we're all capable of doing anything that is possible within the all that is. And when we get to the place that we are comfortable with acknowledging that we are part of something that massive and we have the potential to do any of it, we have the possibility, well, the potential to do anything that is possible within all of creation, we begin to humble ourselves and recognize that there are beings who are playing specific characters. The reason we get to play characters that we could consider something we would never do, for whatever reason, is because what we are is an aspect of light. We're all made of light. The Course even tells us, I am the light of the world. We are light. Light is the essence, the foundation of what we are. When you study, excuse me, when you get into the quantum physics of it, light is nothing but pure intelligence. Light is what everything emanates from. When we accept that what we are is light, light is intelligence, intelligence is all knowing, and we begin to move further away from the light and darken ourselves and block ourselves from the awareness of the truth of who we are, and we begin to create obstacles to that knowledge, we begin to darken ourselves. We begin to create darkness. If you logically think about this took me a while to get my brain wrapped around it, but there is no source of darkness anywhere in creation. You cannot find a planet that puts out icky substance. That doesn't happen. There is only light. There is a source of light. You look at the stars that put out light, and how do we experience darkness? Well, it's because the planet turns his back on the light. The sun moves one way, and the planet revolves, and then we turn our back. The sun comes up here, we see it, oh, we're in the light, and then the planet is turning. It is the absence of light that creates darkness. So when you get comfortable that everything is light, you are light, you are the essence of truth itself, which is what light is, and intelligence, and you have chosen to have an experience of separation, blocking most of that light. And then you go off on a journey to do whatever you do under the guise of being separate and being small and being, you don't know enough. And then you go through all of the gyrations that we put humans in this world, all made up, again, made up by humans, the schooling systems, and we train ourselves and we take knowledge and we accept that we're learning. And then you defend what you've learned and you become an expert and you know it all. That whole process is we move away from the light, we darken ourselves and pretend that we don't know anything because, well, we're just a baby. We don't know anything. We got a blank mind. And then we begin to fill our mind with information and then we become somebody, all made up for the purpose of having the experience in the third dimensional world. When you understand the game, when you understand the mechanics, you begin to realize that this is a beautiful journey. What was his name? Oh goodness, I Joseph Campbell called it the hero's journey, where you forget who you are, you leave your home, you go on an adventure, and then you battle your way back to protect yourself, to find yourself. I don't remember the exact terminology, but anyways, you come back a hero, which is you come back to remember who you really are. And A Course in Miracles give us all of the steps to uncover who we are, to go on this beautiful journey to discover who we are. Today, I want to take us into lesson 221. We're going to do a series of these lessons, probably two today and two next time. Lesson 221. Now, the course is divided into two parts. I'm going to give you a brief little history about or information about the course. The workbook is a section with 365 lessons. The first 220 lessons shows us what the ego is all about. It takes us into an exploration of the mind. It shows us very clearly steps that we can take to become more aware with lots of exercises to sit and observe the mind and question the thoughts that we're having and begin to be honest about those thoughts. Some are fear-based, some are judgmental, some are righteous. We are becoming familiar. It's really education in psychology. We're learning what we are. The second part, from 221 forward, those are very short lessons. It's a one paragraph of information, and then one paragraph is really like a prayer, a statement where you are talking to God, a prayer to God, to train our mind in the more mystical parts of spirituality. So one is psychology. You got to understand your mind. We're retraining our mind to think correctly. The other one is we're recognizing that within us there is something that cannot be described. It must be experienced. So we're going to go into the second part. We're going to look at the more mystical aspect. And this makes more sense after you've trained your mind with the first 220 lessons. So 221. And these are all statements of truth. When you read the titles of the lessons, they are mantras. They are statements of the truth of who you are. And when you fully understand that, what you are stating, you're training yourself to either memorize it, or you're beginning to put words together that maybe you would not have put together because you didn't know to put them together, but you've been feeling them. It's like then you say it and it lands because, wow, I feel that. So this lesson 221, peace to my mind. Let all my thoughts be still. First 220 lessons, we train the mind to understand that our mind is full of thoughts, and the thoughts can get divided into two categories. The thoughts of the ego, which are fear-based, the thoughts of the Holy Spirit, which are love-based. So peace to my mind is because I understand I've got two thought systems, and I'm choosing now not to think with the ego. That leaves my mind at peace, because the Holy Spirit's not talking to you, constantly throwing out information in your head. Is not doing that. Holy Spirit speaks when you ask, when you are choosing to receive guidance. The second part, let all my thoughts be still, is because you are a master of your mind, and you deliberately say, I want stillness. I don't want to listen to these egoic thoughts. You have learned how to swim to the depths of you, and you can observe all those thoughts like little fishies swimming above you, and you're choosing to say, nope, not gonna be entertained by any of this. Then what happens is what's so beautiful. The first paragraph, which is in italics, this is the prayer part, and if it flip-flops, each lesson, prayer comes first, the statement comes second, or vice versa. So we're going to go with the prayer first. Father, I come to you today to seek the peace that you alone can give. Notice the certainty in that statement. Father, I come to you to get something that only you can give. So now I'm acknowledging that I'm coming to the source of what I'm looking for. Father, I come to you today to seek the peace that you alone can give. And if God is the source of peace, and you have trained your mind to recognize God's not out there, God's within, God is what you're made of, well, where are you going to go to meet God to experience that peace? You're coming within. Second sentence, I come in silence, meaning I have trained myself to quiet the ego mind. I am coming in silence. I have done the work. I am mature enough to recognize you are the source of peace. You are inside of me. And for me to feel that peace, I must silence the ego. I must silence all distractions. In the quiet of my heart, the deep recesses of my mind, I wait and listen for your voice. Again, this is a very um, certain commandment here. I'm detailing very clearly what I'm doing. I wait and listen to your voice because I know I'm going to hear it. So there's that certainty of where I'm going to. I know it's in the quiet of my heart, meaning I have quieted my mind. So my heart now doesn't have to be protected. It doesn't have to be blocked. It doesn't have to be in a state of anxiety. I can be totally and completely in a peaceful state, coming to the place, to the quiet of my heart. My heart has been allowed to just be. This is the fountain of love. This is the place where love emanates. So I'm saying very deliberately to God, I've done the work. I quieted my mind. I've taken responsibility for creating the space. I'm setting the stage. I'm coming in to meet you, and I expect you to be there. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that just absolutely an amazing thing to say? Father, I come to you today to seek the peace that you alone can give. I come in silence, in the quiet of my heart, the deep recesses of my mind. I wait and listen for your voice. My Father, speak to me today. I come to hear your voice in silence and in certainty and love. Sure, you will hear my call and answer me. When we begin to create that kind of a relationship with God, is because we know our worth. We know we deserve it. We know that we have been created by God, given total free will to separate. You cannot separate yourself from that which you are one with, but you can have an experience of separation. So my mind has been completely filled with information, misinformation, lies. They're not true, that I'm separate from God. Religion has done a fabulous job of putting God over there and me down here. So I've done all the work of realizing, oh, that's made up by humans, just like politics is made up, just like our medical system. That's all made up. None of that is part of what God created. It is not part of the truth that comes from love. Those are all blocks to love. The way the political system works, the way the medical system works, those are obstacles to truth, obstacles to integrity, obstacles to well-being. That's what those things are the result of humans who have disconnected from the truth of who they are, not listening to God in quiet because they already know it all, making up laws, making up medication because they know it all, but because they're serving the master of the ego, because you can only serve one master, but they've chosen to serve, and I'll put myself in that category, we choose to serve the ego, we are going to be doing things in the darkness. Why? Because the ego is a block to the light. If light is all there is, then what we're experiencing is darkness of our own creation. When we start looking at it, when we start questioning and we start removing those obstacles, light's going to be there. So again, there is no source of darkness. There is only light that has been blocked. So this is a statement stated by somebody who has done the work of removing blocks. Maybe you haven't removed all the blocks. I sure haven't removed all my blocks. Things come up at different times, different places, different situations, activate different thoughts that sometimes I hadn't thought of in years or didn't even know it was in there. But it's something that I've picked up from the environment and it has found a place in the recesses of my subconscious mind. And because I am so committed to this journey, any irritation becomes an invitation to look at things. So here in this statement, by somebody at a mature level of in their journey, very disciplined in quieting the mind and also remembering that you are worthy, you were created by God. So you are in essence, God being you, making a statement, a declaration of certainty coming from worth. I am ready. I prepared the space. Now I expect you to be there. I expect you to speak to me when you are ready. But one of the characteristics of a teacher of God is patience. I will be patient because you will speak to me when it is the right and perfect time for me to receive your message. Then this paragraph two, which is a statement that kind of puts all of this together. And this is Jesus giving us all this wonderful information of what he did to go on his journey to remember the truth of who he is. So Course in Miracles are the exact steps that Jesus took. So this is the instruction. Now, do we wait in quiet? We state our prayer, we put it out there. Now we wait in quiet. God is here because we wait together. I am sure that he will speak to you. This is Jesus telling us, listen, little brother, little sister, I'm sure he's going to speak to you. And you will hear because you have created the space. Accept my confidence, for it is yours. Our minds are joined. We wait with one intent to hear our Father's answer to our call, to let our thoughts be still and find his peace, to hear him speak to us of what we are, and to reveal himself unto his Son. Jesus is basically saying, listen, if I can do it, so can you. I did it. I felt what that felt like. I experienced total liberation. As a matter of fact, I even resurrected. They couldn't even hold me down, even though they killed the body. Why? Because we're not bodies. What we are is non-physical consciousness. So Jesus is preparing us to remember the truth of who we are, which takes a while to recognize that you're not this body that you're in. That's not who you are. What you are is so much more. And Jesus is breaking it down into as many little steps as it can give us so that we can do the work of training the mind. Because when you believe the truth that you're not a body, then you begin to feel the spaciousness, the unlimitedness that allows you to know yourself as way beyond that body. And you can begin to experience a form of separation between you and your body. And you're not just confined by this physical vessel. It shifts your relationship with your body because now at times, and maybe this is what they call out of body experiences. I don't know. I've never called it that, but I experience times when I'm observing my body. Oftentimes it happens to me when I'm in meditation or even when I'm drifting off into sleep and I'm like hovering above and I'm seeing and I'm recognizing, okay, that's I'm not that body. I am this essence that is observing this body. And that level of detachment from the identification with the body allows us to begin to experience ourselves as what we are, which is spirit, which is light. And then you can begin to realize your mind is what commands this body to do what it does. But of course, that comes with time. And here Jesus is letting us know, accept my confidence. He's confident. And for me, it became very clear if Jesus can do it, so can I. Because there's nothing anywhere in the course that tells us that we don't have Jesus's abilities. And as a matter of fact, Jesus goes on to tell us in the Course in Miracles that the only difference, and this is just so beautiful, but it is so accurate. And again, radical honesty says, yep, he's so correct. The only difference between us and Jesus is that Jesus doesn't doubt who he is. We still doubt who we are. We're still identified with bodies. We still think that we're, just a human on this little planet and scared of the big bad, scary aliens or whatever. And Jesus is telling us the only difference between us is I don't doubt what I am because he's done this work. So in his confidence, he knows we can do it too. Why? Because we're all the same. We were made by God absolutely equal, totally equal, given total and complete domain over our own minds to the point that we could, with free will, choose to believe that we're different, choose to believe that we're separate, choose to believe that we're small and insignificant. Isn't that amazing how many people you look at this planet of 8 billion plus people? And so many of them are victims and think that they're less than and think that they're unworthy and they're the 99% and the 1% knows everything. Can you imagine what it must take, the power that we must have to make a decision that we are less than how God created us? It's fascinating to me. So this journey is a journey of correcting our misperceptions, our total, complete, incorrect perception of the world, but correct to give us the experience of separation. But once you've had separation, and frankly, I'm just bored of separation. It's just there's nothing fun about separation for me in the egoic way. So I'm excited to move into this new way of experiencing separation, which is in the happy dream. I want to experience separation, meaning you have a body, I have a body, my grandbabies have a body, but experience it from love, from the knowing that I don't know it all, from the knowing that we're one, from the knowing that we can collaborate and co-create and together build something that works for everybody, for the greater good of all. That to me is super exciting, which is why I feel this feistiness. Anybody who wants to move their journey and position themselves to be part of that co-creation needs to come to the place of courage and says, you know what? I don't know it all. Maybe this chick knows something that I don't know. And I don't know it all, but I know where to go get the information. And that's what's so exciting about this is we have access to exactly how to co-create a happy dream. But again, we have to be willing to acknowledge that we don't know it all. So exciting. So this is a beautiful lesson 221 where we are coming to God in certainty, in expectation that God is going to speak to us because we're acknowledging that not only did we do the work to remove the obstacles, but we're entitled to it because we are worthy of receiving that level of peace, that level of clarity, that level of guidance. Let's go to lesson 222. Another beautiful mantra. God is with me. I live and move in him. Now, I stated that before I fully lived it. I was training my mind. Remember, this is a course in mind training. I was training my mind. I needed to put information in my mind before. I never would have said anything like that. My ego never would have said, God is with me. I was taught God is out there on a cloud somewhere. So I wouldn't have said God is with me, even though Jesus said, I and the Father are one, meaning the kingdom of heaven is within. I didn't speak that way. I spoke from a place of, I'm little down here, God is big up there on the cloud. And for the most part, God doesn't like me. That's why, my life sucks and I don't always get my way. I live and move in him. So listen to the magic of this. God is with me and I live and move in him. So this is a very fluid process where God is within me. I acknowledge that I am within it. And together it's like that infinity symbol. You just don't know where God starts and ends, where I start and end. I'm in him, he is in me. And you can change the word him to it if you want to. This is written in the Father version specifically for those who are Christians. This makes it a little easier, maybe even Jewish, where we speak of the Father. But change the word to whatever you want to change it, but then be honest of why you need to change the word because you still have some reactions to the word Father. But when the words become neutral and you're feeling the essence of it, then you realize, it's like the ocean is like saying the ocean is with me and I live and move in the ocean. So I am the ocean is in me, and I'm a drop of the ocean, and I go out and I can come back in. Very fluid, very beautiful. It's poetic when you begin to listen to the Course in Miracles. And the first paragraph here, now this is a statement: God is with me. He is my source of life, the life within, the air I breathe, the food by which I am sustained, the water which renews and cleanses me. He is my home, wherein I live and move. The spirit which directs my actions offers me its thoughts and guarantees my safety from all pain. This is a statement that we have to be honest. Where are we on the journey of recognizing this statement as the truth of our being? Can you say these words and acknowledge that God is the breath, God is the food, God is the air that sustains you? God is what guarantees your safety from pain. If you're not 100% there, it's really important to say, I'm not 100% there. And then come to this with, God, I want to know this. I want to feel this. And when we come to that with a sincerity of, I want to have this as my experience, then you have to be honest at another level. If you're not acknowledging that you are exactly as God created you, that you are pure, non physical energy, that you are light, if you cannot sit there and acknowledge that is what you are, having an experience that you're not, then you're going to try to chase these things and try to become these things, and you're going to say them and feel bad that you are not experiencing them, because it all begins with the acknowledgement that you already are as God created you. That's how we cultivate trust in everything that's in the Course in Miracles. You know, it's like Helen Schuckman, when she was interviewed about the Course, she said something that when I first heard that, I was like, that makes no sense. But then as I was studying the Course and I was becoming more honest, I said the same thing. It's like, oh, now I get what she says. And when they asked her what she thought of the Course, she says, you know, I know it's true, but I don't believe it. This, we have to get to that honest place where you know that this is true. You know that this is the ultimate truth that you're attempting to live into, but you don't fully believe it yet. This is where honesty comes in. This is where maturity kicks in. To be mature enough to say, I know these are truths. I just don't believe them yet, because then you're acknowledging that the only work necessary to get you to experience this is in your beliefs. We need to change your belief. We need to get you to believe it. If you don't believe it, it's because you believe the opposite. If you believe that God sustains you and you feel that, great, you're operating in total freedom. But if you want to have God sustain you and you believe that God is not sustaining you, then you have to be honest. Well, what sustains me? And you're always going to come to one answer. And it may take layers of that. You may say, you may start at the surface. Well, my job sustains me because it gives me the money, and that's how I pay the bills. Well, the government sustains me because whatever, oh, the medicine sustains me. You're going to go through those layers of what are the superficial beliefs about what sustains you. And then you're going to come to the really tricky, hard place that most of us do not have the courage to go to. And that is to admit, I don't believe that God can sustain me because I have to do this all by myself. I cannot give God the power. I have to hold on to it. I have to be the one who sustains me. Now you're coming to the source of the belief that keeps you from accepting what is true. Your head knows it's true, but you will not allow yourself to acknowledge that you're still trying to maintain control, that you're still trying to do things all by yourself. So these statements bring to the surface the obstacles to the living as these statements state that you could live in a state of total expectation, total entitlement, total recognition that the air that you breathe, the food that you eat, this is all inside of God's mind. It is all made up for the purpose of sustaining this experience of who you are as somehow a unique, individualized part of the all that is, and humbling yourself to realize that you're just a part played by the character named Laina, no different than an actor would play a character in a movie. So there are so many layers to this radical honesty that are important. And as we move deeper and deeper and deeper into understanding what the Course is saying and becoming honest courageously, where am I in relationship to what I'm saying? It just makes for such a beautiful journey. That's why, to me, I will keep reading the Course till my last breath in this, third dimension, because there's so much that continues to open up. Because as I purify my mind more and more, and I release more obstacles, I create more spaciousness to take these words, and they mean so much more when they're not confined to my what I know is true. So it's just absolutely beautiful. But paragraph, still in first paragraph, sentence number 4, he covers me with kindness and with care, and holds in love the sun he shines upon, who also shines on him. Again, God shines on me, I shine on him, and change the word son to daughter to whatever you want to call yourself. There is a beautiful dance that we get to witness to when we are waking up, that ultimately there is only one substance, and it is God. If you want to call it a substance, one consciousness, one energy, and it is God. And that all knowing essence, infinite, uh, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, that essence that is God holds you in it. So you cannot be apart from it. You are a part of it. And when you recognize that God shines on you and you shine on God, that's a place of maturity where you're realizing how powerful you are, how holy and utterly perfect and complete and magnificent you are. But here's the thing. This is again where maturity is so important, because you have to be honest. If that is what you are, so is everybody else. So the feistiness that I feel is a time to tell people who are ready to hear, those who have ears, let them hear this. Don't settle for just spiritualizing your ego. Move beyond that spiritualized ego. Move to the place of true humbleness, where you're willing to say, I don't know it all. Because when you open yourself to the not knowing, and then you allow these words to come to you in a whole different way, allow the Holy Spirit to take these beautiful truths and let them become beliefs that you hold, they will alter who you are. And you have to be altered. You have to be moved. And what an interesting word to use, alter, right there, because I feel you have to become the altar so that you can be altered. You have to be the altar that allows the presence of God to be on your altar. Our mind is an altar for God, and then you will be totally altered. It's the altered, each of every one of us, that collectively will form the happy dream, because we have to become the change we want to see in the world, as Gandhi already told us. We've had lots of teachers, each one giving us a piece of the puzzle. Gandhi made that very clear. You have to become these truths. You have to become the change you want to see in the world. That's why you can't go around picking a side, a political side, and then judging the other side and calling yourself spiritual and awake and you know it all. That just shows how much you don't know. If you even think that there's another side, because there isn't, it's all made up. But when you realize that the experience of the other side is nothing but God expressing itself in a different way to give you the opportunity to recognize who you really are, can you then activate the love that you are as one with God, who moves in you, who lives in you, whom you live in, and love the other ones? That is what is going to be required. The more of the ugliness that we see that is possible within this third dimensional experience with all the Epstein files and all the things that are coming out, the Wiener laptop, all those things. Can you look at the other as nothing but a reflection of you and acknowledge where that other in their righteousness is just calling for love? It's just calling for you to acknowledge that they just like you forgot who they are. And you, when you become the change you want to see in the world, become a mirror that they can see what's possible. Because if you treat them with that reverence that they are holy, and you put yourself in the rightful place of not being judge and jury. Why? Because you can't see it all. You become honest and humble. I can't see it all, but God sees you and God sees you as innocent. And notice that you are just playing this role to give me an opportunity to move off of my pedestal, my spiritualized ego pedestal. And instead of thinking I'm righteous and I'm above you because you did this terrible deed, I come down and I recognize I'm just like you. You played that role so I wouldn't have to, because I get to play the role of the one who forgives you because it's not the role that you were playing. And when I play my role and I forgive you, and in all my feistiness, I acknowledge your innocence because I have decided that I cannot know better than God. And if God thinks you're innocent, then so do I. When I become that certain about who I am, and I know that it is true and I believe that it is true, then I cannot see you as anything other than one who is simply, with the beliefs that you have, blocking the truth of who you are, which allows you to do some of the things that somebody who doesn't have those beliefs wouldn't do. That's how we are going to totally create a whole new world, co-create. So my feistiness is to invite those who are spiritually so superior to consider consider how that superiorness, I know it in you because I know it in me, keeps us separate from really falling deeper into the truth so that we can feel the essence of what real unconditional love is all about. And the way you see it is through the double standards that we practice in every day, where we're right about this and somebody else is wrong about that. That is where you see the places where we may think it, may talk it, but we don't walk it yet. And these statements right here are a way to bring us so much more humbly into the acceptance of how loving we really are. But we just haven't been exercising that love because our ego told us that we can't be loving everybody because they're going to hurt us. We got to protect ourselves. So we built these walls around our heart, protecting ourselves from everybody else, and we locked ourselves all by ourselves in this idea of separation, this idea of I know everything. And everybody who is in that righteous place is so lonely. And I know you want connection. I know you want to feel the magic, the majesty of the oneness that is possible for all of us, but you can't. You won't be able to if you remain in your righteousness. It was so fascinating when it became really clear that I was not going to participate in the vaccine story. It's made up. Why should I do that? I didn't feel like doing it because something inside of me was guiding me not to. I'd already been humble enough to know I didn't know it all, so I did a whole bunch of research. And in all that research, I realized, oh, that's one of the games that are being played in this humanity. People who are attempting to utilize power and money and position to co-create a game where they get to be in control and everybody else gets to be, a sheep taken into the slaughter. And it's the only visual that's coming to mind, so I'm going to go with it. And I knew that's not me. I listen to God. I'm nobody's sheep. When we recognize that we have the ability to play the game that appears to be run by separate people with guidance from God to navigate the game, we humble ourselves and we receive the guidance. It makes this journey so much more smoother. It doesn't mean we're not going to encounter some tough obstacles, but we encounter them with this. God is with me. We can claim that. We know it's true and we believe it. I live and move in Him, meaning God and I are one. And in that oneness, I am entitled to hearing the guidance that will keep me. That guarantees, as it says at the end of sentence 3. I'll just read sentence 3. He is my home, wherein I live and move. The spirit which directs my actions offers me its thoughts and guarantees my safety from all pain. Jesus knew he was safe from pain. His body could be crucified, but he already knew that God was in him and he was in God, meaning he is non-physical consciousness. You can hammer my body, you can crucify it, you can burn it, you can do whatever you want to it. But what I am will not be affected by that because my mind has been trained to focus all attention on the truth and not on the body. Talk about liberation and power and freedom. My goodness. Sentence 4 says, he covers me with kindness and with care and holds in love the sun he shines upon, who also shines on him. How still is he who knows the truth of what he speaks today? How sure is he, how sure am I, who knows the truth of what Jesus speaks today? It's so beautiful to not know anything anymore, but to come to these teachings entitled to the experience that I feel, the certainty, the clarity, the humbleness by accepting this as my truth. And then my mind is trained to believe that so that I can be congruent. I know it's true and I believe it. The prayer, short and sweet. Father, we have no words except your name upon our lips and in our minds as we come quietly into your presence now and ask to rest with you in peace a while. Again, look at that statement of certainty. Father, I don't need any words, just your name. And you know what? You can call it Father, you can call it love, you can call it presence, you can call it source, you can call it universe. You know what you're coming into oneness with. You know what you are calling upon. And you use that word on your lips. Father, I'm coming to be with you still. I've trained my mind. I know how to be quiet. I know how to listen. I come quiet into your presence. You are a presence. You are all around me. And again, this is where you have to mature, because in maturity, you live inside a paradox. Coming into your presence, but where is God? Within. So you accept two things being equally true. This is why you can't be taking sides, because the deeper you move into God's truth, the more you see that everything is possible. So I come into your presence. And as it said before, where you shine your light on me, I shine my light on you. And I ask to rest with you in peace a while. I ask to rest in you. If you trust that the Course says that we're in God's mind, what you are trusting is that God has thought us into creation. Just as when you have an idea in your mind, it's a thought in your mind. A song, maybe it's just an idea of where you want to go in the afternoon, where you're going to go hike, where you're going to go eat. Those are thoughts in your mind, and they never leave your source. You are the source of those thoughts. They'll always be there. If we could, scan your mind of every thought that you've ever had, we will find all of them there. Well, we are that thought in God's mind. It has thought us. If God didn't want to be thinking about us, we would cease to exist. But because God thought us into creation, we exist in its mind. The reason we are safe is because God wants us. God wants us uniquely as each and every one of us is. And God desires for us to remember who we are, because when we remember who we are, we don't suffer. And when only one or two remember who they are, like Jesus, well, there's still a bunch others who are going to try and put him down. He was saying all the things that the egos that controlled the world, that made up the politics, that said that only they knew what was right, what was best. Well, they needed to get rid of this sweet man, kind, gentle man that was only walking around telling people, you are as God created you. Well, that's very inconvenient for those who want to control people's minds and tell them, you're not that powerful. You need to be in fear of me. You need to do everything based on how I want you to do it. And here's the crazy thing. Everybody that bows down to an external idol does so because internally they're protecting themselves. They're listening to the voice of the ego that says, well, I'll take care of me. I'll protect my body if I just follow, king whatever, queen whatever. We are being invited to recognize that we've never left God's source. We are still in God's mind. And we're being invited with so many teachings. Course in Miracles is not the only way to the truth, but it shares the required information to get to God, which is to train your mind. Buddhism teaches that. The essence of what the Buddha taught is the psychology that is in the first 220 lessons. But from 221 forward, these are the lessons that takes you beyond Buddhism into a relationship with God, an intimate relationship with God, where God is with me. I live and move in him. Peace to my mind. Let all my thoughts be still. When you can begin to command the truth because you trust it, you will begin to feel it when you do the work of believing that they are true by examining the beliefs to the contrary. That level of maturity is necessary because it comes with honesty. We have to be honest about every thought that we're thinking, because every thought that we think has a vibrational frequency. And when you take all of your thoughts that are in alignment, where your walk and your talk are congruent and they're high vibrating thoughts because they match what the course is teaching, and then you take all your thoughts where you're not congruent, where you say it but you don't do it, these two energies average out your overall the frequency that you put out. And this is why honesty is so important. Are you vibrating in the 80 percentile of congruency, or are you vibrating in the 30 percentile? And if you're vibrating in the 30 percentile, that means that you have some positive, some things you trust, some things you don't trust. The higher we move in vibrational congruency, the more we experience freedom, because we feel that this world has no power over us. More and more and more and more, until every one of us can achieve the exact same knowing that Jesus achieved. And the reason we can do it is because he activated the Christ within him. We have the Christ in us. The Christ is the place within us, that altar where we acknowledge our oneness with God. When we enter into that altar and we let ourselves be altered by that experience, then everything on the outside begins to lose its power, little by little by little. Or maybe quickly for some. For me, it took time. But as the Course says, we have time to undo what got built over time. No rush. That's why we cultivate the characteristic of patience. And with that, my sweet friends, I feel that I am complete. Nothing else to share. And if you like this kind of a conversation, join us in the Awareness Academy. Come to our classes. Come into that community where we are speaking the truth that we want to embody, that we want to live inside of. And this is not a truth that the world is really welcoming right now, because the world wants you to pick sides. But a student of the course that is going deep knows that you cannot pick sides. But to not pick sides, you have to be courageous about the sides that you have picked and forgive yourself. I mean, it really is that simple. What a beautiful journey. Thank you all so much. If anybody wants to say anything, unmute yourselves. Otherwise, I will see you in the academy. And remember that we have movie day on Saturday, 12 o'clock Eastern. In the academy, you'll get the link and we can watch a movie and then talk about how it's a perfect mirror to what's going on inside. I love you all so much. Thank you for putting up with my feistiness today. Take care. Bye bye.